Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Julie Nelson. Tonight, nearly 1,000 pounds of meth is off the streets, and so are the two suspected dealers St. Paul police officers just arrested.
Boston, Massachusetts, a symbol of democracy and order. But beneath its golden dome, something unthinkable has unfolded. Federal agents from the FBI, DEA, and ICE have raided the Massachusetts State House, and inside, they say, were packages containing more than 8 kilos of cocaine. For decades, this building has represented the law. Now, it's a crime scene. What began as a quiet morning in the governor's wing turned into a federal operation that stunned the entire state. The allegations are explosive that cocaine was discovered inside an office linked to the governor's own staff. Officials are calling it one of the most shocking breaches of government trust in Massachusetts history. How did narcotics make their way into one of the most secure government buildings in America? And how deep does this story go? This isn't just about drugs. It's about power, access, and the thin line between public service and criminal enterprise. Because when the walls of justice start to crack, what happens to the people inside them? The Massachusetts State House isn't just another government building. It's a symbol of power, of legacy, of a state that calls itself the birthplace of American democracy. Every marble hallway, every guarded door carries a century of history and hierarchy. Inside the governor's office operates like a small fortress. Only trusted aides, senior staff, and law enforcement liaisons have direct access. The people who work here are meant to embody discipline, discretion, and duty. That's why what happened here has left an entire state stunned. At the center of it all is one of those aides, a man once seen as a rising star, now accused of something that defies belief. According to federal investigators, shipments traced to his name contained tightly sealed packages filled with pure cocaine. They weren't intercepted at a border checkpoint or in a back alley. They were found within a state office building, just steps from where laws are signed and policies are born. How did this happen? Investigators say the shipments were disguised as standard office deliveries, passing through the same mailrooms that process thousands of official packages every week. Nobody questioned them. Nobody suspected a thing. For months, the drugs moved through legitimate channels, shielded by government credentials and routine. It was a perfect hiding place, one built not by criminals, but by the bureaucracy itself. What the public didn't know was that federal agencies had been watching. The trail didn't start in Boston. It began hundreds of miles away, at a logistics hub where something about those deliveries didn't add up. By the time the agents traced the destination, the address on the label led to one of the most secure buildings in the state. The Golden Dome that had always symbolized integrity was now under quiet federal surveillance, and the people inside had no idea why. It began with a shipment that looked ordinary, a stack of boxes, declared as routine office materials, moving through a Boston courier hub. But federal analysts had already marked the sender as suspicious, tied to a previous narcotics investigation. Each box weighed just slightly too much, carried vague documentation, and followed a delivery pattern that fit the profile of covert trafficking. The DEA, working alongside the FBI and ICE's Homeland Security Investigations Unit, quietly moved in. They didn't announce it, didn't alert local law enforcement. For weeks, agents traced the sender's route from a freight terminal to a distribution warehouse, and finally to a state-owned address on Beacon Hill. When they saw where it led, even the task force veterans hesitated. The packages were bound for the Massachusetts State House specifically, a section of offices connected to the governor's staff. They couldn't act immediately. A mistake here could trigger political chaos, false accusations, even legal fallout for the agencies themselves. So, they waited. Each new shipment was scanned, photographed, logged, and tracked, building the case piece by piece. Then came the confirmation. Multiple boxes, same sender, same recipient, delivered under state authority. Federal agents secured a warrant and prepared the operation with precision. Within hours, the order was signed, and what would become one of the most extraordinary raids in Massachusetts history was underway. When investigators finally opened the boxes, the air in the room changed. Inside, vacuum-sealed packages stacked neatly roughly 8 kilograms of pure cocaine, each wrapped tight, hidden among harmless office supplies. The discovery stunned everyone present. According to the CONSAT initial federal report, the drugs were cleanly packaged, consistent with high-level distribution operations, not street-level trade. The implication was chilling. This wasn't random. Someone with knowledge of state logistics had intentionally used the heart of the government as a cover. In that moment, the investigation transformed. What started as a narcotics case had now crossed into political territory, a collision of power, privilege, and criminal enterprise at the highest levels of state authority. Within hours of the discovery, the entire operation escalated to a national level. The DEA took control of the narcotics evidence. The FBI launched an internal corruption probe. ICE began tracing the shipment's international route, identifying the network that moved it. What began as a single interception in a warehouse was now a multi-agency case, shaking the Massachusetts government. Behind closed doors, federal briefings described it as a high-value infiltration, a term usually reserved for cartel operations. Every federal office involved understood the stakes. This was not about a street deal or a courier gone rogue. This was about how a criminal pipeline had reached the most protected address in the state. Agents reviewed months of digital trails, courier logs, security access badges, and communication records between offices. Each discovery led deeper into a tangle of names, intermediaries, suppliers, and possibly complicit insiders. The FBI's Public Corruption Division coordinated quietly with the U.S. Attorney's Office, while DEA analysts compared the purity of the seized cocaine with samples from known cartel batches moving through the East Coast. Within days, the agencies confirmed the product matched a South American source, one connected to a network already under ICE surveillance. That revelation reframed the case entirely. It meant the drugs weren't just smuggled. They were deliberately positioned inside a government facility, possibly to launder legitimacy through state infrastructure. As news leaked to the media, the storm broke in full. Headlines accused the administration of negligence. Political opponents demanded resignations. The governor's office issued a short statement calling the situation under active investigation, but the silence only fueled speculation. Inside the federal agencies, the tone hardened. There would be no leniency, no quiet resolution. This was now a message case proof that no institution, no matter how powerful or insulated, was beyond reach. The marble corridors that once represented authority now echoed with suspicion. Agents had turned over desks, seized records, and sealed rooms that only weeks earlier hosted press conferences. What began as a raid had become a reckoning, a collision between law enforcement and the illusion of untouchable power. The morning after the raid, Massachusetts woke up to disbelief. What had started as whispers of a federal presence at the State House had become front-page news across the country. Every network led with the same line: cocaine found inside the governor's office. The public reaction was immediate. For ordinary citizens, the story was surreal. The same building that lectured on law and order now linked to a drug trafficking scandal. State employees described confusion, panic, and denial. One aide called it a political earthquake. The governor's administration moved fast to distance itself. A statement was issued within hours. The aide under investigation had been suspended indefinitely, pending federal proceedings. The office called the situation a betrayal of public trust, while emphasizing full cooperation with law enforcement. But the wording raised new questions. How much did they know? And when? In the legislature, opposition lawmakers demanded a full independent inquiry. Reporters flooded Beacon Hill, demanding answers. The governor avoided cameras for days, fueling speculation that the administration was scrambling to contain the damage. Meanwhile, prosecutors began building their case. Court filings described the seized drugs as consistent with wholesale-level trafficking. The aide's digital communications hinted at coded messages and offshore contacts. Federal sources suggested this was part of a broader pipeline, stretching from South America to New England, one that had been exploiting institutional mail routes for months. Politically, the fallout was devastating. Talk shows, podcasts, and late-night panels debated whether this was corruption or infiltration. Supporters called it an isolated betrayal. Critics called it a symptom of privilege and negligence at the highest level. The phrase 8 kilos in the State House became shorthand for everything wrong with modern politics, secrecy, entitlement, and the illusion of accountability. And through it all, the image of the Golden Dome lingered, once a beacon of civic pride, now a symbol of how even the strongest institutions can fracture from within. As investigators dug deeper, the story grew darker. The packages were only part of a larger puzzle, one that hinted at a network operating quietly within legitimate systems. The cocaine had not slipped in through a back door. It had moved through authorized channels, masked by the very paperwork designed to protect them. Federal analysts began to see a disturbing pattern. The shipment labels were formatted in compliance with state procurement codes. The sender used vendor accounts that passed automated security checks. Someone, somewhere, understood the system well enough to weaponize. its efficiency. The FBI's corruption unit expanded its focus. Were there more insiders? Could others have knowingly approved these transactions? Some leads pointed to third-party contractors and logistics managers with overlapping connections to past narcotics investigations. What seemed at first like one aide's betrayal was now beginning to look like a structural breach, a manipulation of bureaucracy itself. The deeper the agencies looked, the more anomalies they found. Surveillance footage missing in specific time windows, sign-in logs altered, delivery schedules quietly rearranged. None of it was proof, but together it painted a picture of an operation designed not for chaos, but for precision. And beyond the paperwork, a quieter conversation had begun about the vulnerability of power itself. If contraband could reach the heart of a state government, what else could slip through? Sensitive data, foreign money, influence? The question wasn't just how cocaine entered the building, but how easily trust had left it. For residents of Massachusetts, the scandal became a mirror. It reflected not just one man's crime, but a culture of complacency that had allowed power to harden into routine. The Golden Dome still gleamed over Beacon Hill, but to many, it no longer symbolized pride. It symbolized exposure, a reminder that corruption doesn't always come from the outside. Sometimes, it grows quietly within the walls that promise integrity. The raid on the Massachusetts State House became more than a headline. It became a warning. For years, law enforcement has said the same thing. Organized trafficking no longer hides in shadows. It adapts, infiltrates, and camouflages itself inside the very systems meant to stop it. This case made that truth impossible to ignore. Federal agencies described the investigation as proof that power offers no immunity. The DEA called it a new frontier of trafficking, where criminals exploit official privilege instead of avoiding it. ICE officials traced similar tactics in other states. Packages disguised as government deliveries, blending into public supply chains. The FBI framed it as a test of accountability in an age where corruption is rarely obvious, but always evolving. For Massachusetts, the scandal left scars that went beyond politics. It shook public faith in institutions, forced new checks on internal logistics, and reignited a debate about the boundaries between authority and oversight. Every policy review, every background check, every security protocol rewritten in its aftermath became part of a larger reckoning. And for the public, the takeaway was sobering. Power, no matter how sacred, is never self-correcting. It needs scrutiny. It needs light. Because even in a building built to defend the law, temptation found a way in. The question now isn't whether this was an isolated betrayal or a symptom of something deeper. It's whether those sworn to protect the system have learned that no one, not even those under the Golden Dome, stands above it. The investigation isn't over. Federal prosecutors are still untangling the network, tracing accounts, and identifying who else may have known. But beyond the legal process, something deeper remains unsettled. The question of how close corruption came to the heart of state power. Massachusetts has promised reform, new screening policies, independent oversight, tighter courier audits. Yet the damage is already done. Once the public sees the seat of government breached, faith doesn't return easily. For now, the State House stands restored to calm the offices reopened, the dome shining again above Boston. But the echo of that raid still lingers, a quiet reminder that power can be infiltrated, and that no system, however sacred, is beyond contamination. The files are sealed, the investigation continues, and somewhere behind the closed doors of justice, agents are blacked, still asking the same question we all are. How did 8 kilos of cocaine end up inside the governor's office, and who really put them there?